Yeah.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Joanna.
Hi, Joanna. I'm Danielle.
Hi, Danielle. Nice to see you.
You too.
Hi, Joanna.
Hi there. How are you?
Can you hear me, Joanna?
I can. Can you hear me?
So I can't hear you and you're unmuted. So you're going to want to just look to see on the bottom. And then just
we can hear her, Kim.
Give you the link versus being on Zoom so you can talk. Just mute yourself back up after you speak when Lakeisha calls. Thank you. Just our protocols, right?
Kim, we could hear her before. Can you hear me? I don't think Kim can hear us. I'll send her a message.
Kim, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now, Kim? You can. Okay.
It was my dashboard. It was all messed up. Joanna, did you hear what I said before? Okay.
Oh, now I'm unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. Where is he now?
Hey, everybody. Yay. I had some technical issues earlier, but I think I have conquered that beast once and for all. Great. We'll start in just another minute. Fantastic. There we go. Happy Tuesday. As we start to get started. Excuse me, I'm at work, and so I have two screens, so it's not like I'm not paying attention to you, I swear. All right, let's check our quorum. I see Stephen and Tiffany. I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes to make sure we get quorum before we get started.
They're coming now, Lakeisha.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Here comes your quorum.
Hi, friends. Yay. All right, now let's go ahead and call the meeting to order now that we've got some folks on hand. May I have a motion to call us to order?
Motion to call the meeting to order. Second that.
All those in favor? Yay. All right, we've got our meeting called to order. Let's go ahead and take care of the first piece of business, taking care of the minutes from the April 20th meeting. Did anyone have any questions, any changes on those minutes? All right, in that case, may I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 20th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Great, and may I have a second?
I will second it.
Perfect. All those in favor of approving our April 20th minutes?
Aye.
Yay. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. Our minutes from the April 20th meeting are officially approved. Dr. Hill, did we have anyone sign up to speak tonight? Parents,
I
faculty?
did not see anyone on the sign-in, not tonight.
All right, not a problem. Well, let's go ahead and get to the fun part. Welcome for the very first board meeting of your very long stay with us. Danielle View is the new director of CFCI. Welcome aboard. This is officially day 2 under your belt now, so.
Yes, thank you so much. I started yesterday and the kids and the staff are just wonderful. And my first job was as they enter the building, squirting their hands with the sanitizer. And I was very nervous that I was going to squirt their dresses or their pants or who knows what, but I did okay. And they're just really friendly and warm and welcoming. So all is well.
Fantastic. So glad to hear that and happy to have you officially with us and on board now. I do want to go ahead and talk about the July board meeting. We talked about that just briefly in a previous meeting to start thinking about thoughts for our July training. That's typically our board retreat. So I didn't know if anyone had some thoughts on that they wanted to share, anything that we've come across this past year that we want to revisit in the training.
I'm curious, the policies and procedures that we're gonna, like, will we have them by then that we could be reading them and having trainings on them? Would that be a good time? Does anybody know?
Yeah, you should have them actually. They're getting started on that very soon, and it takes she estimated 2 to 4 weeks, but as long as 6 weeks depending on our revisions. And she will be, or that consulting firm will be giving it to us in pieces, like in sections as they complete it. So there should be even more things coming faster for us to start taking a look at.
And they were going to do some training associated with it too, right?
They can if we request it, but it's not in the contract right now. But yeah, they'd be happy to.
Cool.
Okay, so since that's not in the contract right now, maybe we want to find out what is the cost with that to make a decision on how we want to proceed with that. Because that would be great, because that's a training for our board policies, correct?
Yes.
That's what they're revamping.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to get that cost. Yes.
Okay. All right, so we will revise on that. And if it's not possible to do that as soon as July, we might want to consider pushing it back just a little bit, because I think that might be something that's worthy of the time.
Lakeisha, can I ask a clarification question on that?
Absolutely.
So it's just the board policies that they're looking at, or are they looking at all of our policies and procedures across the board? Not the board of directors, but.
So the way that it's working is that typically in most charter schools, the handbook, the teacher handbook, mirrors the board policies and procedures, but is the working guide for employees to use and agree to. So the policies and procedures, board policy procedures are getting revamped, but that will also come in conjunction with a new staff handbook, which will then also come in conjunction with a student handbook, so that they're now all matching and aligning together and are cohesive.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there, when are those policies going to swing back to policies and procedures committee? I love the idea of revamping them, but I'm concerned about outside people revamping our procedures and us not being able to look at them through how we do stuff and giving background on maybe why we did things or why we decided not to do things certain ways.
Yeah, so as they finish each section, like let's say section 500 is personnel or whatever, they'll be sending that to us, and then included in the price are our revisions. So as we get each section, we can start looking at them in sections rather than waiting for the whole thing to come at once.
Okay, so apologize for asking so many questions. I just,
It's fine.
so will that be happening over the summer, or will some of that, I don't want the board to be trained in something that may not last as what it would be if it has to go through. So would that be a summer work, or is it is there a timeline for, will it happen over the school year for a little bit? Or are you just waiting to see kind of what they give back as far as how long this will take?
Well, I'm waiting to see what comes back, but also, in my opinion, and it may not happen this way, but what they're really doing is bringing us 10 years forward in the legal language and some of the big missing pieces, which are the important pieces for the board and their policies. The procedure part that I think you're really concerned about are things that could happen slowly, because that's the look and feel of the school, like what time you arrive or who you might communicate to, or those are more procedural. The policies that the board really wants to focus on are things like financial policies or cash-based or handling bids and vendors, or the legal language when it comes to, let's say, a plan for disciplinary action towards the staff. Like the board will see the legal language that's in a lot of charter school policies like that, but there'll be plenty of time to add the procedural CFCI flair to it later. Can I tell you if it's all going to be done before summer? I have no idea. I don't, by judging how much time everyone has and how much time it takes for the committee to get together and make decisions, and then pass them through shared leadership and then pass them through staff, it could take a full year before we have what we really want.
That makes total sense. Thanks.
Sure.
That is a good point. So it is possible that policy training may not even be feasible for July, August. It may take some more time than that. Do we have any other thoughts, or does anyone have any other thoughts on other board retreat topics?
Alicia, can I ask you, how much time do we have for the board retreat?
Last year, was it 2 hours? I saw Chuck's lips move.
I thought it was like a half a day or something. Wasn't it like 4 hours? Not
It
sure.
might have been, and maybe we broke it up into a couple sections. If no one has any objections, does anyone mind if we revisit this in a few more minutes? I didn't want to take up too much time before our board candidates had a chance to speak, because I don't think they're all going to be able to stay the whole meeting. Does anyone mind?
No, and I have some thoughts, but I think advancing to the board candidates is probably a good idea.
Okay. If you don't mind, Dave, just making a little note. I don't want you to forget it before we get to it. That way we will definitely hit on that too. So may I have a motion to move our July board retreat agenda item further down into our executive committee section?
My connection just blipped. You're looking for a vote to move?
Yes, I just wanted a motion to move that agenda item.
Yeah.
In a second.
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yay. Thank you so very much. We will be revisiting that shortly. So now let's get on to another fun part. Welcome, board candidates. So glad to have you with us for a little bit this evening. I would love if you just share a little bit, take a couple minutes to just tell us a little bit about yourself, what brings you to our board, anything that's not already in your interest statement. That would be great. Miss Lori, do you mind going first?
I do not. Good evening, Lori Cadell. Well, first of all, I'm a numbers person, so bear with me as I pull the words together. So I moved to Wilmington in 2016 and spent about 7 or 8 years in Charlotte, and had the pleasure while in Charlotte serving on the board for the North Carolina Humanities Council. And it's just something that I really enjoyed volunteering my time for, just using my expertise, financial background. I'm a CPA here, and I've been in the financial industry for about 18 years. Yeah, so I served 2 terms there, even while I was in Wilmington. And I was on the finance committee the entire time and chaired the finance committee 4 out of 6 of those years. I appreciated, and do appreciate having, more of a leadership position, but also it was just kind of one that the board needed filled at that time. So I was happy to just kind of step up and do what was needed. I miss it. I joked with Dave that it was kind of a point in my life where I was just missing providing that form of volunteering service for any group that I support. And when I saw that this was open, it just kind of seemed the universe was speaking, which is something I believe in, because I am also a registered yoga teacher. So kind of a unique set of qualifications, which I feel like helps me use both left and right side brain kind of things. I feel kind of funny talking about myself. I will admit that. Let's see. What else? What am I missing? The more I read about the mission of the school, I just believe in it. I love that there's an emphasis on environmental education. That's something I strongly support. It's just something that's very important to me. It seems like a great school. So I'd love the chance to offer my talents in any way that they are needed. And yeah, happy to answer any questions.
There might be a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I'll ask Miss Joanna to speak first, though, before we dive in with any questions for y'all.
Hi there, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, as you know, my name is Joanna Henderson. I am a current CFCI parent of 2 students, and we'll have a third starting in kindergarten in the fall. We just had preschool graduation, so I'm a little teary-eyed still from the thought, but I know that she'll be in very capable hands at CFCI. My 2 children who are there have had such a strong experience with their teachers, their classmates. Even in a crazy year of remote learning, you can still tell how much they're learning and growing and developing. And that I think is the part that's really brought me to wanting to apply for the board, in that I know that the school has so much potential and so much aptitude, and wanting to help in any way that I can to help with that. I've been here in Wilmington since 2006, have had a variety of, I'd say I started off at the university in kind of a more professional role, but as our family grew, somebody's job had to give a little wiggle room. And so that's where we are now. Is I'm a mom. I'm also a preschool teacher, which is more of just kind of where they needed help. And I said, I'm happy to help. And there we are. But it's been a great experience. We have just truly appreciated all the efforts of CFCI and what they've done for our children.
Thank you, Ms. Joanna. And next we have, even though I know Stephen Exum is not a stranger to us, did you want to say anything?
Sure. Most of you know me, Stephen Exum. I have a 2nd grader, Will, who's been at CFCI, and he has just exploded with his learning there, even though he's been remote for the full, last year and a half. But he's advanced so far. And the moment that we stepped into CFCI, I wanted to get into something of helping with the school. So I did the parent thing. I was the co-chair of the parent, the PTO. And then I'm the member at large with them, coming here with the board. And being on the board for the last year as a non-voting member made me want to step farther into it and become one of the people that is helping the school out and put the school on my back and help them. I have a strong love for our teachers that are there. My wife's an educator, and everybody's telling how long they've been here. I've had ties to Wilmington since 1927. We've always had houses here. We've had hotels and stuff. So we've had a strong community tie to Wilmington for a very long time. I moved back here in 2006. Me and Denise got married. I was a deputy, and like Joanna, somebody's job had to give when Will came along. So I stopped. I put my career down, and so Denise could keep on advancing hers. It's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And that's about it. That's me in a nutshell. I don't say too much. As I said the very first meeting, I don't say too much unless I really mean what I'm going to say. But I do listen and take a god-awful amount of notes. So that's just me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And last but certainly not least, our other Stephen. Did you want to speak for a couple minutes, even though, like I said, you're not a stranger to us?
Sure, of course. I don't think I'm terribly shy, so I'll go ahead and just drop in a couple of things real quick.
I'm sorry, who are you?
Oh, I'm the new guy. Yeah. Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, first of all, I'm really, really grateful for getting to know, each and every one of you to be on the board. This is my 4th year on the board. I was like Steve Exum, same kind of deal. I was the non-voting member as part of the partnership. Kind of got engaged with that, and then have finished up my first term, or finishing up my first term of 3 years on the board. When I joined the board back, it feels like such a long time ago, same idea. I wanted to be involved in the school, have an opportunity to contribute, learn more about, charter schools were still kind of a new thing for me. I didn't really honestly know what we were getting ourselves into. So to learn some more about the nuts and the bolts and how the charter school operates. And it's just been a great experience. Honestly, I don't think we could have predicted. None of us really could have predicted the kind of the madness and the craziness of the last 2 years. But I'm really, really proud of what this school has done, whether it's faculty, staff, administration, teachers, parents, the whole crowd has really done an amazing job of getting through a change in the director, the pandemic, of course. These have been really tough times, and I am really honored to have had the opportunity to hopefully help in some way over the last few years. And so, I was kind of gathering my thoughts a little bit this afternoon, and really, we're in such an amazing place right now to be able to think about what the future could hold for CFCI. I think, nationally, and certainly in North Carolina, you've got parents are thinking about sort of non-traditional school options, maybe more than they ever have really in history. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for growth if that's something that we wanted to pursue at CFCI. And so, I'm excited, new director in place, pandemic winding down. And so I would, offer some sense of continuity and stability on the board. I know that, next year, when we've talked about succession planning and things like that, next year we have several members rolling off. And so in some ways, kind of being heading on to be the elder member of the board in some ways, I think could be valuable as we move through, what I think is going to be a really exciting next couple of years. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for any of our candidates?
I think I have a question, and I think this is really angled towards Joanna and Lori. So Joanna, I'll ask you first. It's the same question for both of you, and I don't think Steven and Steven understand this, but the big question, or for me when I was coming on board, the acceptance of time commitment versus the reality of time commitment were two different things in my mind. I was like, yeah, I got the time, but the reality of how much time this takes is real, and so this is a serious and significant commitment. I just want to ask, I guess maybe turn the question into a question. Do you have awareness or understanding of the time commitment that this takes, both in board meetings, but then the extracurricular responsibilities of being attached to a committee and the responsibilities there? Do you understand that? Are you willing and do you accept and commit to that time, or do you need more clarity to understand what the time commitment is? So Joanna, I'll kind of tee you up for that first.
Well, after the way that you phrased that, I feel like maybe I have a minimalistic understanding of how this works. Again, I know, I spent 8 years on the board of directors at United Way, so I understand that you kind of, there's the regular and then there's the unusual timing. So again, I believe that I have a reasonable understanding of it, but I would love to hear from anybody what a true realistic non-COVID year would be like.
Take away hurricanes too.
Oh yeah. No natural disasters and no hurricanes, or no pandemics, and then.
Yeah,
I don't know if I remember.
No, I haven't had a year without one of those things, so I don't know.
I mean, Joanna, you've got a really good lens, and Lori, I think I'll turn it over to you as well on your commitments there.
Yeah, I think, you make a good point. serving on the North Carolina Humanities Council for 6 years, I mean, there's definitely a difference in showing up for the board meetings and then having the committee meetings. And then as a chair, I would, put together a presentation we had quarterly meetings, but they were in Charlotte. So there's a time, to commute there as well. Ad hoc committees, it's a lot. But I think it's worth it. It being a lot, I think that's why it took me a year to be ready to come back again. But I think I understand. And as with everything, sometimes it feels like a lot, but I think it's doable and worth it.
Good. Yeah, I think both Joanna and Laura, you guys have a lens I did not have, as I had not had that deep board experience that both of you have. So thank you for those comments. And I don't think this is any different than what you've experienced and what you both have loosely described there. So so thank you. Turn it over to anybody else for questions.
This is for Lori. Do you have any other connections to the school beyond, besides knowing our esteemed Dave?
I do not. My mom's a retired kindergarten teacher, and then I mean, good friends got me interested in charter schools back in Charlotte. Just the idea and the philosophy and how they are different. I myself am a dog mom, so I don't have the exact personal experience, but I've just heard great things and just from reading about it. So that no other connections. I don't know children that are currently there.
Thank you.
I will go ahead and piggyback a little bit onto what Dave was saying about the hours involved and that sort of thing. And I think any member here can also chime in on this. But it's been so much going on the past couple of years. I'm hoping that the next few years will not be nowhere near that, but it has been a little more of a commitment with not just our regular monthly meetings, but sometimes there are called meetings when certain things come up where we have to discuss whatever it is that's going on, whether it was a sale of a property or that kind of thing. Sometimes those special called meetings do come up. Sometimes committees have to have their own separate ones. And then there's those ad hoc committee meetings. And sometimes there's the work you do between the meetings just to prepare. So I don't want it to sound like a bad thing, but I definitely want you to have a little more of that realistic picture if you weren't sure about that. I don't know if anyone else has any 2 cents to add on to that.
I'll chime in here, Lakeisha. I will say that given the board's evolving stance on, what our role is, since I've been on the board for the last year, we have gotten our meetings under much better control. And I think that the special called meetings have helped alleviate a lot of the work that we have to do in board meetings sometimes. So we're not, on until 10 o'clock at night. So I do think that it is evolving, and hopefully the coming year will be just a little more chill with slightly less difficult decisions on our plates, because we have had hurricane, pandemic. So that's 3, right? We should get
a new head of school.
Well, see, that's great. Like, good. We see we're all in place. All the pieces are here now. So I have seen an improvement just in the past several months with regard to the time commitment. Of course, things come up, but I do think that we're staying out of the minutia a lot better as far as our role goes, and clarifying what it is we're doing and how we are driving things.
I agree with that.
Do you guys have questions for us?
Yes, that's going to be my next question.
Sorry, Lakeisha.
No, that was good.
I guess I would love to know from your perspective, because I've been the parent who's been sitting on the other side of the Zoom call or listening into, you know, when all the decisions were being made. How do you go about deciding or discussing? Is there an offline discussion that then translates into the meeting, or is it how are decisions made?
One of the rules of the road is following open meeting laws. So we are constantly asking ourselves, you know, can multiple board members get together, have a discussion? The answer is usually no. We have to follow open meeting laws, which means meetings have to be posted. And so what Amy was alluding there is that in order to, I'm going to hone in, Joanna, on the like, how do we make decisions, right? We know that a significant decision about X, Y, or Z is coming up. We'll call a special meeting a week or sometimes 2 weeks in advance of the decision meeting. So the new structure that was just approved is a really good example. We had a meeting to kind of circulate that, and then we had another meeting to actually have the presentation of it, allow the board to ask questions, get more information, and it didn't create it like reduces it. It takes the pressure valve off of saying you're going to get all this information in one night and make a decision the same night. Instead, it's the decision is already deferred to X date, allows us to worry about the facts in front of us, ask the questions, and then the admin team to go and source information so that then we can come back into the next meeting with the presentation already known. We can fill in the blanks of whatever was not able to get answered. And it allows us to make a well-informed and better decision. So the exec team, which is one of the committees of the board, is able to make those decisions in exec to say, okay, yeah, we need to have a special meeting so the entire board is informed of this before. So that is one of the greatest things we've done. So it's a meeting before the meeting is really the key there.
I'd also like to add that I think sometimes parents and community members, and to a lesser degree teachers, because they're ethics on the campus and they kind of see how things work. But parents and community members in general sometimes think that the board makes a lot more decisions than we do, and we actually follow we distribute responsibilities based on how the board is, the bylaws, you know. And so we have maybe like a different lane that I think people sometimes think that we have. And it's not this be all kind of group of people that makes, you know, the deciders, you know. And we're not, and it's because the day-to-day happenings of a school, I mean, we're just not equipped really to make those decisions, and we have the right people in place to do those things. And I think that's really, really important to support the directors, support the teachers, support administration, everybody, staff, everyone make sure, and to know what our role then is almost more long-term, to refine policies to, I mean, there's specific ones that are in, I just can't name them offhand as we're just talking here. But I think that's kind of important to note, is that, you know, it's not, it's actually more heavy on responsibility and less on power, if that makes sense. So if anyone wants to add or refine my what I just said.
No, I think that was pretty good, actually. I do want to be respectful of our candidates' time. So if anyone needed to go ahead and bounce off, or if you want to ask another question, definitely stay. But I did want to give you this opportunity that if you needed to skip off to something else, you are absolutely welcome to do that. I think we have gotten what we need so far.
All right. Wonderful. Sorry, that's me. I have a meeting with our general counsel.
That is
I like what
A-okay.
was, I do like what was said about the role of the board, though. It's synonymous with my previous experience. It's kind of more of an advisory, I don't know, advisory position, and not rather than a decision maker. So that I like to hear that. But anyway, it was a pleasure meeting you all, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm
See
going to
ya.
do the same thing, but thank you all for your time, and I appreciate all of your efforts, especially the teachers and administrators on here. I kudos to you. You've all done such a wonderful job, and we look forward to many more years.
Thank you. We'll be
Thank
hearing
you,
from
everyone.
us. Have
All
a
right,
great
bye-bye.
evening. Yay. Did anyone have any questions for our other candidates that we're familiar with?
Is it with a V or a PH? That's really what I want to know.
Hill is a PH.
Hill's a PH. I'm the V.
Well, what's
Steven, you ready to go?
What's the right one?
Mine's the sophisticated way.
Hey, Steve E., do you have other board experience?
No, I just have a lot of law enforcement, and I don't have any board experience other than the past year. And you know, I owned a computer store at one point, so I ran a business.
Okay.
But
Also important.
no.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions for our candidates, I had put, Tiffany, I have a quick question for you. I hate to put you on the spot. I know you had another engagement before, but you're with us, so I don't know if you are on a time crunch or not.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Originally, I had thought that we will put our vote a little bit later just to accommodate. So that is why it's a little bit further down on the agenda. I'm happy to continue with the agenda as is. If no one else objects with it, we'll talk a little bit about the finance stuff and then do our votes for the candidates and then move on with the rest of the agenda.
Can we bounce back real quick to the training retreat?
Yeah.
We did talk about a better understanding of shared leadership and just incorporating that into whatever is presented to the board, because, you know, I feel like I have an idea. I have no idea if it's accurate or not. So just getting into the mechanics of that and the true definition of it would be helpful I know it would be helpful for me. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, it's a good segue, Amy. I totally agree with that. I think not to kind of take this to a simpler bullet is a opportunity for the board to get to know each other. You know, you'll have new teachers or new teacher, maybe one teacher. Okay, and then one seat. So maybe that's less of a point this year. But I was thinking shared leadership. I was also thinking I don't know if this is too much or maybe isolated if folks need it, but kind of a review of the structure. And I don't know. I was kind of looking at it from like the coordinator position perspective. If those folks could come in and kind of speak to their roles, I think that might be cool. As opposed to, you know, we've heard it a lot from Kim. But shared leadership is a big one. That was on my mind, Amy.
Okay.
So
Dave, are you talking about responsibilities over and above what is on the job description?
Yeah, we've talked about this structure. We voted for it. People are getting in place for that. An opportunity to kind of look at it as, you know, from the voices of those folks who are in the roles and, you know, how they are going to tackle the role. What they've learned about it so far could be very minimal at that point. But to kind of hear from the voices of those folks that it impacted the most.
Okay, because I think, Kim, you can speak to this as well. As you're coming into a role, you're looking at the job description, but once you've got both feet into it, all of a sudden it can sometimes take on a new format. So I'm just wondering how beneficial it would be at the beginning, whereas it might be a little bit more beneficial to maybe give it a couple of months in to see the reality of how it's operating. I know for me, whenever I was in a leadership role, depending on where I was, it changed to some degree by the nature of the need, just what was there.
Yeah, and I think that's precisely the commitment that the board has made, looking at that, as well as the wage increments on that as well, right? Looking at it in a year, 6 to 9 months, those continual check-ins to see, has it expanded? It's harder,
Right.
easier, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I want to say, I think we actually said we were going to check in on that in December. So, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And
yeah, I think that's a good time frame.
Danielle, we've talked about, we're going to be obviously having meetings in June to plan for the year and look at those positions and make sure we clearly understand what what we're doing. But I think we're all really excited to have Danielle there and excited about the opportunity to work together as a team. And so I think, certainly I think some type of a, presentation or what of the organizational chart with, people that are in those positions, having a conversation with the board sometime in August or September might make sense. But I leave that up to Danielle.
I think sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, after you.
I think learning about the origin of the school may be good. Kind of, we're headed into our 22nd year. So what was that like? Joanne is, I think, our last standing original teacher. So maybe getting Beth Carter into to kind of hear where we all started, and then revisiting our strategic plan to see where we are and let that guide us for our work.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that we haven't looked at the I haven't looked at the strategic plan all year. And that's really our role, is to be planning for the future. So I'd love for us to do that. And I don't know how many days we're going to spend on a retreat because this agenda is getting big. But I also would love to talk about this idea of the ongoing evaluation and kind of feedback loop with the director of, working on different outcomes and having this feedback loop with the director and the board, and how we can set that up from the beginning with Danielle, I think would be really beneficial. So if we could squeeze that in somewhere too, be good.
I like that. Squeeze that in somewhere. All right. So we've got some options there. The origin of the school, revisiting strategic plan. That was on my mind too. And talking more about shared leadership. Go ahead.
One more, Lakeisha, to opine on is the, we talked about the board committees and the responsibilities of each board member being on a committee. I think it would be a worthy discussion to set the expectation of what that means and what the recurring responsibilities would be from each board member, either leading or being on those committees, so that we can get, that's something that we, it's not been too sticky this last year. So that would be a good improvement.
I think meeting in person is going to help with that too. Sometimes there's some work you can do when you're sitting there right around the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that could be more of a discussion and then an agreement with the board on on how the team goes forward with those committees.
And I wonder if that will be in those policies and procedures manual, because that is best practice to have everyone agree to these things up front and to, plan ahead and then evaluate themselves every year. Am I fulfilling my responsibilities? Do I continue in this role if I'm not able to? That kind of thing. So hopefully the consultant would address some of that stuff.
If I'm gonna weigh in here, I'm a big picture person, so I would love to look at the strategic plan and make sure that we are looking ahead at what the year looks like, because that will help us in our decision making as a team, because we can always refer back to that. And I also think if we do have any of those policies, board policies, ready, that I think that would be a great time to get on the same page with that. But everything sounds really important. It just sounds like we have so many things that I'm not sure how much time we're devoting to it. But I think if we were prioritizing, I'd love to do the big stuff that's going to drive us for the year.
Rather than getting caught up in the details.
Yeah. So I wasn't here, I don't believe, when the strategic plan was originally started. I think that Tom helped the board devise that. So I'm wondering if maybe he would be good to invite back when we revisit it to talk through some things.
I'd say, Lakeisha, the teachers had, the faculty and staff had a major hand in that. So we could probably give you the more realistic rundown than Tom could.
Yeah, Tom was mechanics. The inspiration and details were from within.
Perfect. Is there anything that we discussed in those possible topics that we would need to reach outside of us for? Because origin of the school, that would be some of our folks. Strategic plan also. An idea of shared leadership, would that be something we would reach out to Tom for maybe? No.
No.
Okay. I just saw a finger going there. That sounds nice. Fantastic. So I want to make sure we didn't need to arrange anything with anyone else outside of our group. Okay, that's good. All right, so we'll try and put something together, and maybe it might be something that would be branched into a couple of retreats. I don't know if a chunk of us could carve out like a half day or a full day, but we will figure that out before our next meeting. There might be some emails going around about that. All right. Anything else on that stuff before we move on to budget update? Fantastic. All right, Miss Mallory, you have some info for us?
Yes, absolutely. So it doesn't look like I can share my screen at the moment, but hopefully you all saw in the board packet the graph to where we are, and I can just sort of verbally tell you what that is. We have used, we've collected 73% of our revenue, and our expenses are at 77%. We have 26 remaining in our revenue to collect, 22% of our budget to spend. Our current surplus moved up from the 190 where it was to 211 because we were granted the summer learning grant that added to our revenue, but there is an expense line, and that is fully planned to be spent on summer learning. So it's not a true surplus. But basically for April, we are right on task to finish out the year on budget.
Good.
For those of you who had a chance to look at it, did anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay.
No.
I will make this short and sweet. I'll move on to some more exciting news. Today, we had all of a sudden the city and all the permits went through all at one time, and I got a text that said the bulldozer and or grader machine is out there and they can't grade because there's students out there and there's cars parked. So everyone jumped in, and Ben was a huge help with that, and we got all the cars moved and all the students out of the way so that we did not hold up any progress today.
Good.
Yep. So the grading machine, all the tree protection and yellow fence, orange fencing is gone. And the big grading machine has come through and mulched up all the root base and sort of leveled out the ground. So the next layer is for the mulch to come in so that the playground can be used. That does mean that the parking lot is available. However, we don't want to really do anything with that for a little while because there's a few chunks or pieces that need to get fixed. I'm so sorry. You hear my dog's toy in the background. Stop it. Anyway, it's the one time he grabs a squeaky toy. But it's, where was I? Oh, so there is some chunks that got cracked when Duke Energy put in the lights. And of course, they won't take responsibility for that. So Honeycut contractors have to come back with a big cement truck, which means if people were parked there, we'd have another like major emergency. So we need a couple more days to get those things fixed, and we're trying to get on that schedule this week. Hopefully that will be finished. So the playground will be able to be used as soon as the mulch comes in. However, it's available to be used without the fencing around it because there's a few more trees for long-term goal that we want removed. But we're going to go ahead and mulch it so we can play in it and then have the trees removed after hours or on the weekends because there are a few that are impeding some of the play spaces and soccer fields that we want. And that's still sitting at the city to get approved. So we don't want to put up the aluminum fence and then bring in heavy equipment, whatever. So the only concession we have to make is that students need to play without the fenced in space. But they will be very easily visible. And I think it'll be better than where they are now. Yes, I get a lot of yes. So good progress, very, very close. As soon as the mulch is down, we can start using the play space, and then the parking lot is really close. So that's really good news. Yay, all happened all at one time.
3 years.
Are those big trees? What size trees are they? Like trunk wise?
For what's coming down? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I don't know, Brant and Sarah, people who know, I would say they're like, yeah, they're not
very big at
they're
all.
not huge. They're the biggest ones probably like that size. One of them, the city is going to make us relocate some sort of cherry something tree that we're going to have to spade and relocate. But George doesn't think that's too much more of an expense than actually cutting it down. But the rest.
I was asking because if there are tree rounds big enough to sit on, we'd love to have some of those on our playground. And if not, I would love some smaller pieces to have small parts on the playground, if possible.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Maybe when they come to remove them. Yeah, when they come to remove them, I can have them pause and pull you up there, and you can point out what you want. We'll figure that out. Sure. Yeah. So next, I meant to do Blue Clay Road first. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the agenda backwards, but I got excited about the playground. Blue Clay property is also, it was paused. It was supposed to close April the 30th. However, due to their combining our 20 acres with the 40 acres, And the 40 acres financing, although ours is cash, is dependent upon the collateral of the 20 acres. And so the surveys all had to be in and all the appraisals had to be done. And they ran into a few things that they needed from us. So long story short, they requested 45 more days to close in June. I believe it's the 15th. However, they increased what they're paying us by $5,000 for that 45. Well, actually it was 30,000. Sorry about that. It's 5,000. So it's going to be, the final closing price is going to be 855. But they put down 30,000 to hold for the next 45 days. So their earnest money or their deposit is now a total of 30 that they already gave us and is in-house. So that's already in hand and has bought us the next 45 days. So that's a good.
Is it true earnest money where if it falls through, we keep it?
Yeah, it's already in our bank account. They cannot get it back.
Okay.
Yeah, and the attorney reads everything, just so you know that, before I sign it. Everything that comes in, everything that happens. George is a huge part of orchestrating it, but then it all goes through our attorney and then it comes to me before any of that gets signed and put in.
I asked because you said a hold for the next 45 days, and I was like, wait a minute.
Sorry, that's my language. The first 10,000 was a hold, and I believe that's still in earnest money, like a deposit. But the 30,000 for the 45-day extension was actually part of their cash down payment. Yep. But they can't get it back. It's not a deposit. They paid upfront.
They're considered. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. I'm not using all the right real estate language. I'm sorry.
It's okay. As long as it means the same thing, I'm good.
Yep. Yes. That's where we are in that. Any questions on that before I go to the next part?
What did you say the closing date is now? June the what?
I think it's the 15th. I'm sorry, I don't have that exact number.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're on a good roll.
No, I got a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I can't remember if we had even begun the discussions of what we may consider using that money for or putting it in the meantime.
Well, yes, lots of people are having discussions on what they would like to use it for. That is certainly happening, and a lot of that actually revolves in the fact that the building is, 10 or 11 years old. There's a lot of things that need updating. The roof alone, the HVAC we've talked about several times in here. Those are things that are, big ticket, like in upwards of, could be like 350 before those two things are completely done over the next couple of years. There's, multiple discussions. I'm sure there are lots of people who have lots of ideas and opinions, but nothing is in stone. No real meetings have been held. No real committees have been formed to really start discussing that. I think we're all holding our breath for that closing to really happen and make sure it's in hand.
Joanne, how exciting is it going to be able to check that one off the list?
Well, we'll see when it's checked off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
not
so
holding our breath.
the best thing that the school does is nothing, right, at first, and then committee that and determine, okay,
Come up with a plan.
What percentage must be
Mhm.
kept, is there like a CD that would be valuable to increase interest on some of that, while then allocating some for capital improvements. But that should be committee run, committee led, and done with purpose, and not reacting.
Yeah. I did have that answer, Joanne, you asked in the last board meeting about the tax implications. And according to our attorney and our auditor, the federal auditor, there are not any tax implications that he is aware of. We won't owe capital gains. There aren't any significant, we're a nonprofit. There's nothing, we don't have obligations of holding a certain amount aside or paying a certain amount out. There's nothing in place that they're aware of. He said that that the best thing that he could recommend, or they, both of them, would just to do what Dave's talking about and meet with a financial advisor, or, you know, learn for ourselves where we want to invest that, or what's the best place to hold it to gain interest.
Great. That's good news.
Yeah. All right. So the next part that is on the agenda, I'm just looking that up. We have had some resignations come in. We had 2 ECTAs who have resigned and are already finished out their time at CFCI. So subs and help are very pushed right now towards the end of the year. As far as 2 other roles, though, our school counselor and our student services coordinator have resigned pending the end of the school year. So they're living out the rest of their contract. Those are 2 things that we wanted to bring to your attention. And the last thing on my agenda is the contracts. We've had discussions since I got here, really, about the teacher contracts and how they're worded, and are they a contract or are they an employment agreement, and what is the language in them, and how old are they? Do they need to be updated? So those are in the hands of our attorney right now, and she has acknowledged that there's language in there that makes it a hybrid between the 2, and it can't be a hybrid between the 2. So she is currently reworking that, and we should have something to present to you when we present the budget.
Do you know which way she's going? Like towards
going more towards
contract or
contracts.
agreement?
Yeah,
Like
it is more of a contract than an agreement, but it's a contract with the at-will employment language in it, which doesn't belong unless it's an employment agreement. So we're working through that.
That's what I'm asking you. So
Yeah.
that's what I brought up months
Yep.
ago. Is it going towards an actual contract, or is it taking out the contractual language and making it an agreement?
It's going towards a contract.
Okay. We'll see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the contract that the teachers will sign?
Yeah.
Okay. So the board will see that before the teachers sign it? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
When do you expect?
Talking for this upcoming school year, or is this going to be it'll be next year?
No, it's almost
having it.
finished. It just wasn't quite ready to show you tonight. But it is almost finished, and we'll be able to present that soon.
So the June board meeting is when teachers' contracts are approved. So if it's presented then, and then that's what we're approving to, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we need more, like, I don't know, like, we need to approve it, right, as a board.
I don't know the answer to that. That's
I don't either.
I would think the contract itself.
If you could ask Donna that,
sure.
How that would work. Like, do we approve that? And does there need to be some time between when that does get approved, if needed, and when we do our contract renewal? Or can we do the contract renewal just as a vote, and then the new contracts can be done
If you're
shortly thereafter?
The format of what it is, which if it's a contract, it includes, different obligations and deliveries and consideration, and also, the exact outlay of how people are terminated and all of those things should be in there. And that's a major change from where we are now. So, I'm not sure. I think the teachers need to really kind of have that for a minute before we ask them.
It's not, though, in its current condition. It doesn't have, it has the same termination language it's had before. Really, the only thing that's being updated is just some of the legal wording and the at-will employment piece. So there's not that much to it. And what is being changed actually benefits the teacher.
Right.
For sure. And so what will protect the school, though, is the new policies and procedures and the HR management tools that will show up in there that aren't current, to
No,
match it. But I think that if the contract is approved by the board, like if teacher contracts are approved, then that makes them approved, right? If Lakeisha puts her, if you guys see it, agree to it, the teachers have signed it, she's putting her name on that final piece. So that would be the approval. I think. I'm not sure there has to be a vote, but I'll certainly ask Donna.
And the question that I have, because when I first brought it up, there apparently this has been a discussion that the faculty has had over the years. Like, do we want a contract? Do we want to stay? Well, like, it's been a thing. So I don't know that we can just make that decision for them.
Okay, that's not something I was aware of. I was just working on really trying to get it legally appropriate. And so I didn't know that it was a thing that the teachers wanted to.
Joanne, do you want to chime in here?
Choose which one.
If I understand you right, Amy, I think what you're talking about really is about tenure.
Right.
And yes,
No,
that was a
no.
big.
No.
No.
I mean, that we really didn't. The contracts were always at will. The contracts were always at will.
Well, that's the
Whatever.
thing. That's
However,
my issue is like they
from
were
the beginning.
at will, but then they're not a contract; they're an agreement. So that was my, that was my concern from the beginning, and that was when I thought I remember. So maybe back then you and I were just talking about different things. I mean, I think I think that teachers need a little more security than that at will situation, personally. But if it's been something that's been,
can we have that aren't we just an at will state? I mean, isn't that
we are, unless it's changed contractually, unless there is legal language to the contrary. We can write it however we want. I mean, it could be a horrible contract and you wouldn't want to sign it. But if it's just, I mean, what my concern then was I don't think anyone should. I think it inhibits the ability to freely communicate and take those channels of communication where they need to go if there is, as in the past, a fear of being fired because you're an at-will employee. So that was always that was why I brought it up all that time ago. So I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with it.
Yeah, and my reasoning for bringing it up is because it's an open hole in the school's liability. Honestly, if there were any sort of legal action against us, we can't stand on either side right now to say that we wrote an actionable contract or we fired at will. It is a hybrid. What was created is a hybrid, and so it's very difficult for anyone to defend the school in particular. It's an opening there in our own liability, and then it also, the teachers would have the same issue. They don't really have a leg to stand on. If their legal side were looking at it as an at will, or they do have, if it's a contract, so you have to sort of take a stance in one way or the other and not
right. That was
create the hybrid.
Mallory, if it becomes a contract, are they 1-year contracts? How does that work?
1-year contracts.
Okay, so every year they get renewed. So it's not, all it does is protect you for the year versus at will, you're not protected for the year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but that also, on the flip side of that, you're protecting the employees, but you're also protecting the school from employees walking out in March. As much as possible. You don't, we also don't want a teacher who's committed for the year who is just like, oh, well, I don't feel like working here anymore, so I'm going to walk away.
Right. So how is that going to work?
Well, we need to see the termination.
It would be a contract. Right. Exactly.
We need to see there'll be a procedure. It should say exactly how that would go down.
Yeah.
Y'all, I don't know if this makes any difference, but I just know that in South Carolina, we were 1-year contracts as well. Okay. But it was a contract that we signed. But if any of my teachers decided they wanted to walk out in March, then the school district it was written into the contract that we had the right to hold their licensure against, you know what I'm saying? So that there was a repercussion built into it which is going to cause someone to think long and hard before they chose to break their contract and walk out mid-year. In other words, they couldn't just decide to go over to Alderman and get a job as a second grade teacher because there was an availability in March. You see what I'm saying? Because of the licensure issue. So I think you have to look at some of those other components other than just the time frame. Does that make sense?
Well, that will be
It feels a lot bigger than just a few words being changed at this point. I mean, keep now it feels a lot bigger to think that I'm going to have to sign that next month. And I've never looked at it. I don't exactly know what it means. I'm not sure we even know what it means. We haven't even seen it yet. So that it feels much bigger than that now after that 5-minute discussion.
Sorry.
So it's something that needs to be maybe possibly looked at for a year from now. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it can always be
I
a
don't
partial
know.
year.
I mean, I
Okay,
don't know
so
if we
it can
can.
always, we can renew in June like we would under what we've got. And then as we take our time with it, you could always, then the term for that first one would be like, if we decide, okay, this is definitely, everybody's good with it, then in August, it would be August through, June or whatever the term is. It would just be an abbreviated first term. And then the next one would be the following school year. So that's not a big deal to put it. I think
but in terms of that's just hard. In terms of the security, which I hear you're talking about, what kind of security is there? You're also having to think in terms of and y'all, I just listened to the baby and the thought went right out of my brain.
I just would
I'll
like
come
to
back
say,
to it in a minute.
Amy, I'm glad you brought it up. I think this is really important. So don't feel like
no, I mean, I can't keep it
Not at all, because I didn't realize it was as big as it was. Or maybe is.
And I think that I would really like to hear what the teachers think about this. And I know that there's teachers here on the board, but we'd kind of like to hear probably even greater. And I really do think this is an opportunity for a win-win situation where we can clarify things for our legal aspects as well as provide something a little more clear for teachers as well, and might be supportive of them as well. So I think this is a good opportunity. Thanks.
Could I ask, what are the implications if we do not change this for this year and we leave it for another year? What are the implications of that?
They continue in the gray area as far as being at-will employees and having that. I mean, this is how they've been under the same agreement for years and years and years now. So I think the change is really good, and I think it's good for both the school and the teachers. But because of how this was a surprise, this should have been a discussion. I feel like this was just kind of dropped. I didn't realize this was going to be a thing for this meeting. So I'm sorry to take up time. I was just telling those candidates about our shorter meetings. So I spoke too soon.
I'm afraid there might be multiple solutions that need to come out of this. There are some emergent needs and changes to our contracts for this coming year. For instance, the pay has not been listed in our contracts in the past. That's a problem. It was a problem for me 3 years ago or 5 years ago when I signed on and I asked about it. And so there's some small things that need to change immediately. And then I think we also have a bigger discussion also. So I think there's kind of twofold was what I hear going on. I know for myself, I will not sign the same contract again. So some things have to change immediately. And maybe that's the discussion, is what are those things? And then what are the bigger things that we need to talk about also? But I do have to just speak up to say there are some emergent needs also.
Is this going to require an ad hoc committee to sit down and discuss this, do you think, to then present?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, that's why we have an attorney to work out all those things.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking about before that I've sort of forgot for the moment, had to do with, you know, Bill, is when you talk about protection for people for the next year or rehiring or whatever it's going to be. We do have that built into the evaluation procedures. And so whatever there's, you know, you're coming up on contract renewal or whatever you want to, you know, call it at this point in time, we do have built into it a procedure in terms of, you don't just wait till the end of the year and then all of a sudden say to somebody, without giving them a chance to fix what it is you're concerned about, that they don't have a job for the following year. I'm correct about that, right? I mean, that's been done before when people go on corrective action plans. In other words, there's a procedure that's in place for building some correctives that need to be made by a teacher one way or the other.
There's a loose procedure that has puts a lot of weight on administrative choice.
Okay.
And it's very loosely written, and it depends on how you interpret it as a contract or as at will, where I need a lot to stand on, or I really don't need much because the contract says that we can separate at any time. And
okay,
that's
so
the language that is in there right now. And that's honestly, when you see the new contract that the attorney's working on, it was sort of in an emergency use. Like, we just need to update it because June is coming.
Right.
So in that updating part of it, taking out the one at will piece and allowing it to be what it says it is, which is a contract at the top. It says this is a contract. So I think most people were under the impression that they're operating under a one-year contract. That's the language that most people speak about when they talk about their contract at CFCI.
Right.
But the at-will employment piece is a part in there that wasn't really known or maybe even understood, that it doesn't belong in the headline contract. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the piece that she really was just taking that out and updating a few other sentences. Otherwise, the contract right now looks very much the same.
I mean,
so maybe the discussion would be when that rolls out, have some communication and some discussion around it, and then decide if we need a lot more or a lot less.
And the procedures that it's implemented through are separate than the actual language that's written in the contract.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
That's in the employee handbook. Right. That soon, hopefully within the next year, the employees will now have to actually sign it to say, I read it and I agree to what's in here, which has not happened in the past.
Okay.
So not to belabor the point, but like the terms of employment should be in the contract, which would include compensation and time off, and all of those things would be that's the term of the agreement. Like those are kind of crucial things, and they're individual for each employee. So that I mean, has the attorney even have they brought that up?
Well, it is, again, that piece of it, it states that we follow the DPI salary scale for teachers, and that we follow the state mandated leave rate based on years of experience. That part, that general part, is inside the contract, and then the contract should be given out with, and I understand, because the first couple of people that I brought on, I actually wrote in their salary before I realized that it wasn't supposed to be written in. You know what I'm saying? Because that is what I'm used to as well. I took a section out, wrote in the salary, because I'm like, if they're going to agree to this, don't they want to know what they're making? Until I had some more discussions with more teachers and more people who said, well, it is in there, but not the exact. It's more of a generic contract, a teacher contract, but not a specific.
I wouldn't.
Specifics follow. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't add those things in. I'm just saying as is for as of June, we're fixing a few of the holes, but maybe not all of it if there needs to be a bigger discussion. So we could just bring that to you and let you see it, see what your thoughts are, and then move forward from there, or develop an ad hoc or whatever it is you want to do from there. But that's why the attorney's not making too many changes. We weren't trying to like rock the boat. We were just trying to close a few holes. But Amy, to your point, I agree with you that I did write some of that in. So a few of our new teachers do have that in their contract. And so we're trying to fix that, and figure out which way we're going to go. How are we going to do it? It's not hard to do either, though. I mean, if we wanted to put each person's, numbers in it because they request it, I don't think that that's a big deal.
So Mallory, if you will find out from Donna, some of those logistics and that sort of thing. And I want us to know if that's still part of our role to look that over before we do that. I don't want us to overstep like we have before or get into like what Amy called those minutia types of things, or is that within our role? So I want to find out those two things before we dig too much deeper or create ad hocs and that sort of thing. But we definitely need to know if there's anything we need to approve before contract renewals coming up in June, and how that process will work. Find out some of those details from Donna and let us know. So that way we can be above board.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's possible. I know personally, if there's a new contract coming out, if it's possible for me to be able to see it before it's granted, would that be a possibility to just say, hey, this is the contract that's coming out. This is the one you'll be signing once the board approves it in June? I think maybe we're concerned about things we don't have to be because we haven't laid our eyes on it yet. So I guess part of that, we have to decide, does the board get to approve it? And then we look at it, but it just feels, if the board has to approve it, something doesn't feel right about the board approving a new contract and then turning around and saying, here's your new contract.
No, you should
sign if you want to.
You guys,
So,
I mean, again, if I understand shared leadership the way I sort of do, that's something that you guys would have to field before we did, if we need to. It just seems like a substantial shift in policy. It may not seem like it, but the legal ramifications of it are substantial.
right.
Lisa?
I think it's great that it's happening there. It needs it needs to happen. So I think it's definitely the right step to happen. It's just sometimes timing gets us with how things lay out. So I'm glad that you're pursuing it.
Lisa, is there anything that hasn't been discussed that you need to be in that wording for you to re-sign? Since you said
I mean, I've been clear with Mallory and I have talked about this.
Okay.
Money and time requirement are two things that are not currently spelled out in our agreements that I've struggled with a little bit. My role is a little different at the school. So when we talk about a 10-month employee or an 11-month employee, that can look really different depending on your take of how you count days and how you look at months. And so I know it sounds kind of nitpicky, but it is our livelihood, right? And so those are definitely two things, Steve, that I've talked to Mallory about wanting to make sure are spelled out. And that can be just on my contract in this moment, or I do think it's important for all of us to be thinking about what we need to feel secure. So I think that does change from people to people. But that's for me personally, those are the things I would like to make sure are on the contracts.
Thank you.
All right. In the interest of time, we can move on to our closed session for candidate discussions, since we moved that down into the agenda. Dr. Hill, since you are part of the candidates, I think it's okay for you to be part of position 1 discussion, but then position 2, we kick you out so that we can talk
Totally
about
fine.
you in private.
It happens all the time.
Fantastic. So Ms. Kim, if you are able to put us in closed session for voting members only, we will do our best to get this done.
Need a motion to go into closed session for voting members only. I'll kick that off.
Thank you, sir.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
I didn't realize we wouldn't be part of that, but
I didn't either.
We always have been in the past, so why aren't we?
But normally you're part of the discussion, but just not part of the vote, right?
But
Right.
that's fine.
we're missing the discussion, right?
So Lakeisha said that you're not. So if you are, I can put you in. It's not a
We
problem.
always have been, Kim, just letting you know that we've always
That's
been
fine.
part. We just did not have a vote.
No,
We
that's
just don't
fine.
vote.
Nope. It's not on you, just telling you that I'm surprised because we always had a say, not a vote.
Steve, do you think you're supposed to be in there too?
I have no idea.
I mean, no, probably.
It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I'm sorry you don't feel good.
It's okay.
Will hasn't been feeling good either.
Really?
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, I'm sorry. Your
No,
eyes they're not as cheerful as they usually are.
I'm fine. I'm just feeling the. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Say hi, Miss Kim.
Hi.
Hi, Miss Kim.
How are you? You guys good?
Off to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, it
I'm
doesn't matter to me if I'm in there or not. I'd rather not be in there, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's happening.
Oh, our chitty chat is playing on YouTube. Whoops.
That's all right. We didn't say anything,
No.
but thanks for the reminder.
Denise just came in and told me.
Where are you located, Steve?
I got the boot. No, I got the boot. So they're still talking.
There you go.
Hey, Stephen Hill. For your minutes, I motioned us out of closed, and Amy Sloan seconded that.
And since we are a little bit past our 2-hour mark, we do need to have a motion to extend just a tad bit. Hopefully, I'd like to say 30 minutes, but let's just say an hour to make sure that we don't have to do another motion. May I have a motion to extend another hour?
I'll motion to extend this for 41 minutes or 51 minutes. I can do math, I promise.
51. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. We are extending until 9. After a lot of discussion and going back and forth, final results are this. We do have the new person, Miss Lori Cadell, will be joining us next year, thankfully, and Dr. Stephen Hill will continue to join us. So, Mr. Exum, you are still with us. We are still keeping our claws in you, of course, for a couple more years, and we will hopefully be giving some suggestions to our final candidate, Miss Joanna, so that we can still keep her around and get her help and benefit from all that she has to offer as well. As far as officer positions, what we have, I pick it up. Even though there was a write-in for board chair to be Dr. Hill, I will continue to be board chair next year, but Dr. Hill will be our vice chair. Our treasurer will be Tiffany Erickson, and secretary will be Nancy Johnson. And all of those terms will start in July. Did I miss anything on that? I think I covered it all. Let's move on to our director's report. She's going to talk about the next school year, following school year.
Oh, I'm going to punt for Danielle, and I'm sorry that my voice is like this. I apologize. So first of all, I just want to, it's not on here, but I just want to thank the board and the community publicly. Obviously, all the teachers and staff at CFCI for making this year just a really wonderful year for me. Your support and your care of kids and teachers and each other was remarkable. And I think this was probably one of the most difficult years I've ever lived through in education in terms of COVID and everything. So I just really appreciate everybody and just wanted to say that publicly. For the presentation tonight, just need to do a presentation of the 22 budget, the 22 school year budget. And we're suggesting, much like Dave had talked about before, a special meeting on June 1st with a vote on the third Tuesday of June. So I don't know how everybody feels about that. We were just offering that up as a possible date. It's where the budget we feel will be ready to go and ready for the board to take a look at and be able to ask questions. Any thoughts?
Just nailing that special meeting down. The date. Are we just we'll just reserve the second or first Tuesday in June for that?
The first Tuesday, right after Memorial Day. Yep.
Any conflicts with anybody for that?
I'm not available.
Not available. That's an important person to have at a budget discussion. Could we do it Wednesday?
I can.
For what it's worth, we start EOGs that next day.
On Wednesday?
We have EOGs starting that Thursday. So I don't know if that really makes a difference or not.
We're talking June 9th, right? Or June 10th is the EOG starting?
No, June 3rd and 4th.
First week of June.
Yeah.
June 2nd.
That probably the Wednesday probably doesn't make a difference. It was just, that was a date that was in my head.
I would say it's probably a 45-minute, possibly, presentation.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a really long presentation.
So 6 p.m. still?
June 2nd, Wednesday.
Still at 6 p.m.?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, June 2nd, special meeting.
Okay, all set with that. And then just wanted to let you know, tomorrow we'll meet with a COVID ad hoc, but we wanted to give you a heads up. We're going to be looking at wearing masks or whether we're not wearing masks outside. We're going to be looking at temperature checks coming back around to us and how that might look now. We're also going to be looking at hand washing and concerns because we are looking at some cases of possible norovirus. And we're also going to be looking at any special trips or experiences or events that we're having that involve multiple classes or multiple students and or families, such as commencement on June 9th. So, and I just wanted to make sure you were aware, although we've sent it out, that June 9th is our commencement for our 8th graders, and we will be holding that up in the playground. And we've ordered chairs and everything to accommodate that. So, so that's it for COVID ad hoc update. And then I just wanted to make you aware of Jennifer LaFleur, and I put the link in there, was nominated and received the Roy Harkins award. She was the award recipient, and she received a nice plaque for herself and a small gift amount. And this award is designed to recognize a teacher who has contributed to preparation of future teachers by demonstrating excellence as a partnership teacher and or site coordinator. And she was nominated as a site coordinator for this award. So pretty exciting. And we're very proud of her.
Good.
And that's it.
Did we lose Chuck or did he have to leave?
He had to leave.
Okay. All right. When we were talking about UNCW, I then looked for him, but okay. Sorry.
No problem. Congrats to Miss Jennifer. That's awesome.
Yes.
I was
Can
just
I jump in really quickly though, because Kim started this whole presentation out thanking us at CFCI for all we've done, and can I just thank her publicly for being the leader and building the trust and giving us everything we need to get through this most difficult year I've ever had teaching, and that I think that all of us can agree that without her leadership, we would have not been where we are right now. And so when she was saying that, I was just thinking, okay, she's thanking us, but she saved us. And I need to publicly acknowledge that. And Kim, thank you.
Thank you.
Here,
Appreciate
here.
it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Cannot sing those praises enough for everybody all the way around, because it has been quite a year or two. Quite a
years.
But can I
Yeah.
slide in here? I'm going to slide in here and say that Danielle, you're getting a really good team. You're getting a good team.
Very,
very supportive, and so excited to have you on board.
Thank you. And I feel so fortunate.
It's a great place to be.
Yay. Did anyone have any questions on anything from director's report? Awesome stuff. For the board committees, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review some of those minutes. Personally, I didn't have any clarifying questions, but I wanted to give everyone a chance to either clarify points if you're sitting in on any of those committees, or ask any questions if they needed more info. Anything for PPRC? Finance? I know development didn't have a meeting, but L3? Technology and PCN. All right, well, that was simple. All right, well, unless there's any other announcements, anything anyone wants to make sure we bring up in our next monthly meeting. I know we're coming together in a few weeks for that special call meeting, but if there's anything for our June meeting, I'll go ahead and make note of that now.
I have one thought. We can maybe opine and percolate on this, but I think it would be really fun as not fun, a visual for the board if we could figure out how to come back together for meetings. I think Zoom will always be needed. YouTube, I think, is great. Keep that so people can connect remotely. But I think Nancy had a point earlier at one point, like being together would make a big difference.
I just
talked
feel like
about that. We did talk about that.
Yeah, in some settings, it's just, I think you get more done.
I just think that you have to think about, and I think we can talk about that at the COVID ad hoc, how many people we're letting in the building at one time in a room. We have to find a space for it. It's not impossible to do, but I think we have to find the right space and make decisions about masks and everything. So we can talk about it at the COVID ad hoc tomorrow. How does that sound? Is that right?
I think it's a bonus. It's not. Sure. Got to focus on the kids first.
Because you got to add tons of computers to everybody, because you're not going to have all the families come if they're all watching on YouTube. So either have one camera facing all of us and being able to pan to each person, have a cameraman, or everybody has laptops. It's kind of hard to do.
I remember when we all were together, not all together, but when we were interviewing for the board that final day, when Danielle and the other candidates came, and Shannon, it was you who joined in virtually, and there were so many different things going on toward the end. I felt like Shannon was getting kind of lost in the flub of things. So Stephen's right, basically. It's a lot to juggle and figure out, but it does have some value when we're all together and able to collaborate in person. So I'm looking forward to hearing what ad hoc comes up with soon. If there's nothing else, I'm happy to take a motion to adjourn for the night, folks. All right, Danielle, thank you for enjoying your first official meeting. As we are gradually transitioning you out, may I have a motion to adjourn for the night?
I so move we adjourn.
And a second?
I'll second
that.
Fantastic. Dave's like, I'm seconding that. No one bothers to wait
Danielle,
for that one.
you did it. First
Yay!
Good job.
Yay. Meeting is adjourned. Everyone have a wonderful night. See you soon.
Okay.